the very familiar face of Mazda. You can see, of course, the grille is familiar, and what I like about the Mazda range is the fact they've now got the family identity. Kodo design, yes, you'll see that all over the place on all their models, but you can tell immediately a Mazda these days, and that's a good thing. You come over here, you can see the slimmed down headlights that again are a feature of their latest models, and LED headlights, features like that, because remember, this is the top model in the range, but we'll talk a lot more about that just now. You've got, of course, your nice low front end over here. It just gives that sleek and low impression. Come around. Now, this is the CX30. And I'm going to talk a lot about the CX30 model as opposed to CX3, CX5, because the 30 and the 60 are the latest generation in the Mazda CX range. And there are a lot of features that have come in and a lot of improvements in my opinion. Now, obviously you've got the cladding around the wheel arches down the bottom of the bodywork to show you this is an SUV in the range. And I'm going to concentrate a fair amount in this video on the differences in the spec levels, because there are 4 models in the range: active, dynamic, carbon, and individual at the top. We're in individual here. So for example, active and dynamic have 16-inch alloy wheels. Carbon and individual have very handsome looking 18-inch alloy wheels on them. And I'm going to mention some of the differences between the models, because that's important, because it's going to be a case of which one do you want. Note, of course, just touch on the door handle, the doors unlock, and the mirrors fold in automatically as well. Maybe a bit too sensitive and a bit too quick to do so sometimes, but you get used to it, and also doesn't necessarily unlock the rear doors. But these are features you get used to on your car. CX30 is interesting where it fits into the range, because it's between the CX3 and the CX5. So let's have a look at the space in the rear seat, for example. Now, the driver's seat, as always, is set for me, as you'd expect. Nice legroom. I've got no complaints. The legroom is more than adequate. Headroom with my hat on, for me, is good. But you'll see in a moment, this is the coupe-esque styling. So again, it's going to be a question of how you feel. Now, over here, something that I must say, I think Mazda could do something about, is there are no USBs for the rear. You want to sell a family vehicle today, Mazda? I'd like to see USBs at the back. Little point, I know some of the models do have them in this armrest, which you see is a nice big substantial armrest in the center here, but I've had a look. Nope, not on this one. So there you go. But you do get ISOFIX, and another feature of individual is it's the only one in the range that does have leather seats, as opposed to fabric in different configurations in the other models. Mention the coupe-esque styling. Notice, of course, now the sort of fastback effect towards the rear, and the extended C-pillar over here coming to the back end with a spoiler over the top of the rear hatch, and the very familiar, I'm going to say, Mazda tail lights. Note the little round light over there, very narrow into the tailgate. It looks pretty good to me, I must say, and I think it's a nice looking, handsome rear end to the car. Pop open the boot. Bit wet over here at the moment, but have a look. Now, under the board, first thing you've got to see is the fact that this is a full-size spare wheel. So well done on that, Mazda. And notice something else, and this is another one of the features that you only get on individual, is that large Bose, as they call it, amplifier come woofer in the boot there, because the individual model gets the upgraded Bose sound system with 12 speakers. It's the only one in the range that gets that as well. So keep that in mind. Now, drop that down. You've got a nice level, flat load area, which is useful. Mazda quote the boot space at 295 litres, which is not massive, but you've got the cover over there, and of course you can drop your rear seats 2/3, 1/3 if you want to, if you need the load space. So that's where the compromises do come in for the coupe-esque rear end, I call it, where your boot space is maybe a bit less than some others in this sort of category. Close the rear tailgate, and of course this is the important little badge over there. Because interestingly, there's only one engine option in the CX30 range. Mazda's Skyactiv G, meaning gasoline or petrol engine. 4 cylinders, 2 litres, 121 kilowatts, 213 Newton meters of torque, driving the front wheels through a 6-speed automatic transmission. That sounds quite familiar in Mazda speak, doesn't it? Because yes, they use it in many of their other models. But there are a couple of little differences we'll talk about.
My name is Michael Pashut and I'm the proud owner of Change Cars and the host of the TV show All Things Motoring. I'm even prouder to work with Alan Rosenmeyer of Motor Matters, your _1 review specialist for all things new. If you are looking for a new or used car, if you're looking for advice, visit changecars.co.za and I promise you, you will get the best advice from the best dealers in South Africa.
Coming through the rolling hills and the sweeping bends towards Harties, where else do you think we head on the weekend? Or during the week for that matter. And beautiful, it's looking a bit greener than it has for a while. A few drops of rain actually, nice stuff. But it's not about that, it's about the car, of course. Mazda CX30, smooth, comfortable, relaxed. And it actually has just that tiny touch of slightly sporty handling as well, just to add to the little recipe of this car that to me makes it feel premium, makes it feel comfortable, and makes it really a nice drive and a nice cruiser. You've looked at, as it shifts down, I don't know if you heard that, the Mazda engine typically has that little sporty roar to it when, listen to that, can you hear it? When it shifts down a gear, it just gives you that slightly sporty roar, which can be a bit of fun. But the nice thing is that the CX30 in particular, because of the extra sound deadening and just the extra smoothness, you don't get that all the time like you do get in some other models. And in this one, it's actually just there every now and then to tell you, hey, I've got that extra bit when you really want it, but the rest of the time you can just take it easy and relax and enjoy yourself and enjoy the countryside, the views, the vistas, and a bit of green coming through as the season starts.
Jumping in behind the wheel, you'll notice it's got pretty traditional, I'm going to call it, instrumentation, but it tells you everything, and that's what counts. And of course, you can scroll through different information, pressing the info button on the steering wheel over there. But now, what I want to show you is something, and I've got to tell you that I'm possibly a tad disappointed on this one figure, but I've got to also clarify it. We've done 482 kilometers on this test, showing 8.3 liters per 100. Now that is a bit more than I would have expected, but to be fair to Mazda, a lot of this test was done in heavy traffic jam conditions in Joburg. So maybe this is kind of a worst figure that people will expect with this car. So just keep that in mind. Now, you're probably not going to see it, but just above me over there is a heads-up display. And it's a proper heads-up. It's not that little folding flap that Mazda used to use. So well done on that, Mazda, I've got to tell you. And very tiny little flappy paddles behind the steering wheel. You've got obviously your standard buttons on the wheel, your cruise control. It's not active cruise control, but your cruise control and features like that you would expect. Got your door locking and unlocking over there, and down over here, it's a bit difficult to show it to you right now, but there are memories for the electric adjustment for the driver's seat, and that is another feature you only get on individual, is electric adjustment for the driver's seat with lumbar support and memories as well on it. So there again, feature of individual as opposed to any other model in the range. Focusing on the screen over there, the infotainment screen. Now, this has pros and cons, and I'm going to be honest with you. It's quite a long, narrow screen, but I find that okay. But depending on your height and your seat height, some drivers may find, and Mrs. R found along the way, that it cuts it off a little bit down at that bottom corner. So it depends on you, it depends on circumstances. Now, something else that a lot of people have commented on is the fact this is not a touchscreen. If you have a look down here, you use the rotary controller down here. You've got home buttons and shortcut buttons around it, but you use the rotary controller. Now, quite honestly, I find that quite convenient. And secondly, for somebody my size or height or lack thereof, that is too far a reach for a touchscreen. So Mazda, unless you're going to bring the screen forward or down here, for example, if it stays there, and I've got no issue with it, some people do, as I said, then I like the fact that it's not a touchscreen, because I can't reach it safely and comfortably. It gives you all the information you want. It has all the connectivity you want. You can get a card, an SD card for full navigation. It is an extra, or talk to your Mazda dealer and try and get it as part of your deal. But I didn't tell you that. But let's just see. You will notice the dashboard is in two tones even. There's a slightly lighter tone over there, darker over here, but it is soft touch, squishy as some people call it. And this is where the CX30 really, I believe, starts standing out, because Mazda have made that stated desire and target and aim to become premium, and the CX30 is, I think, the first step in up that ladder that they took. The CX60 takes it even further, but that's obviously a much bigger car. But here you come down, your dual zone aircon controls are nice and easy, convenient, works well. Now again, there's a difference. Active has manual air conditioning. You go up to the dual zone on the rest of the range. You come down over here, there's only one USB over there and a second one inside the glove compartment, which of course is refusing to open for me now. There you go. There's a second USB and a 12-volt socket over there. So you've got two up front. I mentioned none at the back. You've got a nice slot over here to put your phone when you want it. Connectivity works nicely, especially with the cable. And I tend to use the cable a lot, I'll be honest. Another feature, I mentioned the rotary controller, is the little knob over here for your passenger, for example, to use for your volume and your sound system, etc. And a little push to mute if you're taking a phone call or something like that. Very traditional automatic gear lever. I like it, nice and easy. I said the 6-speed auto, smooth, comfortable, relaxed. There is a sport button over there, sport mode. I don't touch it. But now I'm going to comment on the difference with this new CX30 as opposed to other models in the Mazda range. Because I used to, and if you go back on some of my older videos using the same 2-liter engine, I used to comment often, very buzzy, revved almost too high and way too high when you went into sport mode. Well, I don't know if Mazda have adjusted the gearing or just put a lot more sound deadening in this car. But all I can tell you is it is so much more smoother, more comfortable, more relaxed driving in the CX30 than, for example, a CX3. It is chalk and cheese in my opinion. And I really appreciate the extra luxury premium. I use the word, that's why I'm using the word, in this one as opposed to the others. But maybe you like the sportiness of the CX3, so that's something you can decide for yourself. But I mentioned earlier you get the leather, full leather on the seats, and notice the front seats are pretty much almost a sports seat, nice bolstering for your upper body over here on the sides. So they are very, very comfortable, lumbar support for the driver. Everything you want, it's all there for you, and it all does come along. Whether you like the glossy piano black around the here center console, well, those are things you can decide, but it does look classy. So the point of this is there are 4 models in the range. They start at 497,000 Rand, go up to 573 for this one. Same mechanicals, which is always interesting, right? So it's spec levels that change. I'm going to give a personal opinion here. I think you either buy the Active at 497,000 Rand, or you go straight up to this one at 573. And I'm going to discount the middle 2 models, simply because for the difference, if you want all the extra spec I've mentioned you get on the individual model, I would go for this one. I wouldn't save 20,000 Rand and not get leather, not get the Bose sound system, not get the electric adjustment on the seat, and have the carbon edition, just for example. I'm saying I would be very happy with the CX30. It just is a case of which one you choose. If you can afford it, I would go for the individual, that's for sure. Yes, there are other cars in a similar category. The Hyundai Kona jumps straight to mind, the Toyota CHR, for example, if you want body size, body shape, styling, etc. They're both, I would say, much sportier options in a way, although there's nothing unsporty about this one. It goes well, it overtakes nicely, it's got enough power, enough oomph to it, you never have to worry. But it's just got that somewhat more laid back feel to it, in my humble opinion. You're in this category and you want to spend this kind of money? Go and drive this, and never forget that 3-year unlimited mileage warranty and service plan, especially if you're the guy that does high mileages. Could just work for you. For Motor Matters, I'm Alan R. See you next time.